right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 5:30. My name is Stephanie White, and we're going to start with the trim agenda. And I would like Avion just to call the roll, please.
Tori Woods. Melissa Sidoti. Dr. Rex Northup. Dr. Tim Smith.
Present.
Patty Hightower.
Present.
Stephanie White.
Present.
David Peden.
Present.
Judge JJ.
Judge JJ.
Commissioner May. Pastor Wesley.
All right, so tonight is the trim public hearing, and we're going to open the public hearing on the proposed millage rate for 2022-2023 fiscal year. And right now, the proposed millage rate, the name of the taxing authority is the Escambia Children's Trust. We're doing a rolled back rate. We're proposing that 0.4365, and the percentage of proposed millage rate is a 0% increase over the rolled back rate. So the operating millage rate will be 0.4365. The total millage rate will be 0.4365. Right now, I'm going to read the resolution, and then if anyone would like to speak on the proposed millage rate, there are public comment forms next to, on that front table. To my right, to your left, you can fill that out, and you will have 3 minutes to speak on the proposed millage rate. The resolution states, it's resolution number 2022-05, a resolution of the Escambia Children's Trust adopting the tentative millage rate to be levied for the 2022 tax year and declaring the percentage change in the property tax levy as defined under the Florida statutes, section 200.065. At this time, are there any comments from the public on the proposed millage rate? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on the proposed millage rate for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Are there any comments from the board about the proposed millage rate?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd just like to say this rate is one that saves a tax increase from the rollback rate, and so I think that's an important decision that is on the table here. And of course, the 0.5 is what we've had in the past. So just for the public, that's the rollback rate is because of increased property taxes, property values. So that's what we are proposing tonight is the rollback where people will be paying the same as they were last year.
Any further comments from the board? So at this time, we're going to adopt the resolution adopting the proposed millage rate for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Is there the recommendation is that the Budget Committee recommends the board to approve this preliminary millage rate?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Is there a second? All right, at this time, we'll do a roll call vote again on that.
Tori Woods.
Yes.
Melissa Sidoti.
Yes.
Dr. Northup.
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Yes.
Patty Hightower.
Yes.
Stephanie White.
Yes.
David Peden.
Yes.
Judge JJ.
Abstaining pursuant to statute.
And Commissioner May.
Yes.
All right, at this time, we are going to read the resolution. We're going to open the public hearing for the proposed budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. I'm going to read the resolution for that. It says a resolution of the Escambia Children's Trust adopting the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Are there any comments from the public on the resolution for 2022-06? Seeing none, I will ask if there will close that public hearing, and I will ask if there are any comments from the board on the tentative budget. All right, hearing none, I'm going to ask, there's a recommendation on the floor from the Budget Committee to approve the resolution 2022-06 preliminary budget. Is there a motion or a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote again.
Tori Woods.
Yes.
Melissa Sidoti.
Yes.
Dr. Rex Northup.
Yes.
Dr. Tim Smith.
Yes.
Patty Hightower,
Yes.
Stephanie White,
Yes.
David Peden,
Yes.
Judge JJ, Commissioner May.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn the trim hearing for today? Motion to adjourn. All right, so moved. Our next trim hearing, our final will be September the 23rd, which is a Friday night at 5:30. So please, board members, be present for that so we can have quorum and we can pass our trim, our millage rate. We vote to adjourn. Wait. What you said?
Madam Chair, the location of that last trim meeting?
It will be here. All right, at this time, we will move to our meeting packet for the September 13th Board of Directors meeting packet for the trust. I want to thank Tammy and the staff who've worked very hard on the agenda, and we have updated it and made it hopefully smooth this time. And I know Tammy has spoken to most all of you, if not all of you, to go over the packet and each individual item that we're going to vote on. So hopefully it will be a much smoother meeting, and we'll go much quicker. And so at this time, I would like to call to order the agenda of the Board of Directors meeting for September the 13th. Avion, can you do the roll call again?
Tori Woods,
Present.
Melissa Sidoti,
Present.
Dr. Northup,
Present.
Dr. Smith,
Present.
Patty Hightower,
Present.
Stephanie White,
Here.
David Peden,
Present.
Judge JJ,
Present.
Commissioner May. Pastor Wesley.
Here.
All right, at this time, we're going to ask Commissioner May to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please stand and join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
No, discussion?
Wait.
Oh, sorry, discussion?
I have some
Yeah,
corrections
discussion.
to make. I know on page 1, when it talks about the recommendations for funding, I went back and watched this just because of the wording, in which I'm not sure why my comment was the only comment pulled out for purposes of the minutes, but I think,
We're still on the agenda.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was approval of the minutes.
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, any discussion on the agenda, approval of the agenda? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. So next, we're on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Is there a recommendation to approve the minutes from the August 9th board meeting and the August 24th strategic planning workshop?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Go for it.
Okay, so again, back to the minutes. I think I went back and watched it in an hour and 21. I think my exact quote was that we keep working and making decisions, and then we undo those decisions. I didn't like the way it was worded, just to be clear. Additionally, when it came to the RFP for out-of-school time programming, I supported that motion. It says I voted against the motion. Specifically, I didn't see that Tori's was included either and I believe that she did vote in favor of it, but my vote was cast wrong. Additionally, it specifically states Judge JJ. I appreciate that there's been some informalness of this, but I would appreciate it if the minutes reflected Judge Fred Rahovich. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes as requested?
So, I mean, there's a motion, and so you offer that as a substitute for corrections?
Corrections, yes.
It's just,
So move with the corrections is what we're doing? Okay, all right.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. Next, we're on to the board reports, the treasurer's reports by Dr. Smith.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. We will start off with the balance sheet notes. So if you go to page 3 on your packet, that's where that will appear. We have an operating account balance of $9.2 million, reserve account balance of $524,000 plus. Moving down to the taxes receivable. Note is that a check was received by Appleyard and deposited by the trust. This will be off the books next month. Deposits and reimbursements. This is a deposit to UWF Historic Trust for an event that was canceled. Staff is working with UWF to get that returned. And then the amount due to the Escambia County tax collector, this is the fee due to the tax collector. We have received a letter stating how much will be due and have adjusted our records to that. So we're waiting on the invoice to pay that. So that's for the balance sheet. If you move to the profit and loss report, which is, I believe that's page 13 of your packet. We have professional services, and that's made up of legal fees at $60,000 plus, IT services, $6,600, Landrum, $22,000, and the John Appleyard Agency at $7,221. Moving to the accounting and auditing section, Anglin, Reichman, Armstrong, that's a little over $29,000. ADP processing fees of $459.64, and Jessica Shellyard, CPA at $500. In travel, we have the executive director interview travel, that was $841.99. Executive director car allowance, a little over $2,000. Travel for training, a little over $1,144. And the John Appleyard Agency at $380.26. Promotional activity section, we have John Appleyard reimbursement for advertisements, that's $2,400. Pensacola News Journal advertisements for meetings, $241. Indeed job advertisements, $405, and other various expenditures at $252. And then the last section is books, publications, subscriptions, and memberships. The membership fees to the FACCT at $6,000. Membership fees to the Government Finance Officers Association, $160. Books, $287.85. Software subscriptions, $765.55, and miscellaneous expenditures at $540.77. So that is the summary of our financial reports.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Are there any questions on that? No actions required on our part. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the Personnel Committee report by Chair Peden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Personnel Committee met and discussed recommendations. The board approved staff benefits for medical, dental, and vision insurance, which the trust will pay for 80% of the cost. For the staff, there is a typo here that says "and spouses/dependents." We'll need to strike that. That wasn't part of the discussion that was inadvertently left in there. And then we'll participate in the 457B retirement plan through Nationwide, with the trust contributing 5% of staff salary for each pay period. It took us many moons to get to this point. It took a lot of research and about 3 meetings trying to get the right information. So if the board doesn't have any questions, we'd entertain a motion to approve this.
Well, it comes from committee, so we don't need a motion per se, but we need a second.
So moved.
So moved. All right, all in favor? Any more discussion on that?
Do we need to strike what Mr. Peden said we
Right.
could strike in our
You can,
motion?
yes, and strike it.
You can amend it to strike, David.
Well, that's what David did, right? Did
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
He made that motion to amend that.
Yeah.
So any more discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we're going to go to the agenda items. So if you would like, once again, if you would like to speak on any agenda items or any non-agenda items, there are some forms to the table on my right, and everyone has 3 minutes to speak. We will call you, if you want to speak to an agenda item, we will call you before we start discussing that agenda item. Okay? And you can get up during the meeting and go fill that out if you want to. All right, the first action item under business is A1, is the invitation to bid for conflict counsel. The staff recommends the board approve the invitation to bid number 2022-03 for conflict counsel as presented. Is there a motion for the recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I had a question on page 4 of the document, which is page 32 of our packet. It just references consultation to the trust elected and appointed officials. And I'm wondering what members of the trust were elected members.
Superintendent.
It's those of us who serve by statutory.
I understand
There's-
that,
There's
but
3 of us
is
that
it
were elected.
elected? Who elected you?
It's
Our
positional.
constituents did not
Right.
elect you.
It's a positional. I just think
That
it's-
term I could understand, but elected implies that the public voted for and elected you all, et cetera. I just wonder if that's the proper term to use there.
Right.
Semantics I recognize, but nonetheless,
Yeah, I don't think the public elected anyone that's on the board.
correct.
They were appointed by the governor.
Correct.
If you served in an
Or
elected
positional.
position. So,
Positional or appointed.
You're right.
I don't see who was elected, and that term is used several times here.
That's right.
Just, as I say, a matter of
I think the
semantics.
statute calls it positional.
Yeah, is there a motion to
Or just-
amend
Yeah.
the ITB to put positional? Okay. We need a motion on the floor for that.
I make a motion to change elected to positional.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion on that or on the ITB?
May I ask, did you say it was there, it was more than one place, so you want to make sure that it's at every,
It's on line 1 and line
Okay.
2
okay, so,
of page 4
okay.
of that document.
All right, all in favor of the ITB for conflict counsel with the change of the word elected to positional, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, at this time, we're going to go to business A, business 2, the adoption of the Escambia Children's Need Assessment, and we have 2 public comments. So I will ask, hold on, we may have more. I will ask Ms. Cleaver if she would like to come to the podium, and Ms. Hart's going to, do the 3 minutes? Okay, all right.
Good evening. May I start now? Okay. Good evening. My name is Carol Cleaver, and I'm a teacher for Escambia County Public Schools. And I'm here tonight because I'm really humbled by the opportunity that our county has here to help kids. And I just wanted to speak to the members of the board tonight, not only as a teacher on the ground, but as somebody who I myself am a survivor of a very difficult childhood, of childhood poverty and homelessness and child abuse. When I look back at my past and I think about what could have helped my situation, I think that more than anything, what might have helped is what could have helped my parents. So I'm here tonight to advocate for this board to use this financial opportunity to do whatever it takes to help communities in Escambia County. 3 of the things that I think that would really help my students in their communities. Number 1, continue the Navigator program, We are very concerned that when ESSER funds run out, our schools will lose the Navigator program. And I cannot tell you what a huge difference that has made. I teach in Ferry Pass Middle School. We didn't have one before the pandemic, even though I'm in a Title I area. And it has just been like night and day having someone there that can actually just go to somebody's apartment and check on, does this child have, clothes? Is there an actual grown-up in the apartment? That's something that me as a classroom teacher, I can't go to everyone's house and do that. So we really need to keep the Navigator program. Another big obstacle for my students to participate in after-school and before-school mentoring opportunities or extracurricular activities is transportation, straight up. If there is any way that this money could be used to facilitate transportation for students so that they can access extracurricular activities, or even so that their parents could attend those activities after night, after work at night. So many of my students, their families just do not have a car. They do not. The third and final thing I'd like to advocate for is what many people call wraparound services, but I'll be specific. Talking about my school specifically, I have every year, and I've been there 10 years, I teach 150 kids a day, and of those 150 kids, I would say every year I have at least 10 kids that just cannot see. They need glasses. Their parents don't have time or money to take them to get glasses. If we could even just have clinics that come to the school, once or twice a year and do like eyeglasses, and then follow up by getting, we have a health screening, but it doesn't really help the parents to say, your kid needs glasses. If you don't have money, you don't have a car to get them there, you might not have insurance, and you might not even speak English. So, a good percentage of the parents that I work with now do not speak English. So coming from the childhood that I came from, and now I've got this opportunity because I'm a teacher and leader.
Time. I'm sorry. Thank you
It's
so
okay.
much, Ms. Cleaver, and thank you for your service. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Warren with the Escambia Education Association, or Ms. Warren, I'm sorry.
It's the name, and I apologize, the voice is gone, so I'm going to be real quick with this. I like to piggyback on what Carol Cleaver said. Right now, I'm serving as the president for the Teachers Union. My background is elementary school. I taught second grade for 22 years here in Escambia County. One thing that I think the trust would be able to help us with is to be able to provide those services before and after school. Our kids are coming out of 2 years of COVID. They had 3 different options in our schools to be able to go virtual, they were going in person, and then they had a combination of both. A lot of our kids also coming out of summer vacation. A lot of them had nowhere to go. So once again, our kids are experiencing those learning losses because they did not have those programs in place. And I would hope that the trust would look at providing those programs to assist our kids to be able to get that extra help before and after school. We have some kids who are going to some of our schools before school even starts. Some of our teachers aren't even there. That is not a safe place for them. And to be able to provide them with a safe place before and after school would be a great assistance to our schools. Our schools need the help of the trust to be able to help us to provide services for our children, provide a safe place, and to have our children to grow and learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next and last speaker on the needs assessment is Ms. Garman.
Hello. I am also an Escambia County school teacher. I've always taught ESE. Piggybacking on my colleague, I've always taught ESE kids. There are even less opportunities for before school and after school opportunities for your ESE population. And they really struggle trying to make up from all the learning loss from COVID. I can say for my students, virtual learning was a totally horrible experience. I only had a couple of students that had the parent support you need at that level to be successful with virtual learning. So those students are very behind and need some extra services. For them to be able to do some early morning or after school things would be totally wonderful. And I also want to say that the Navigator program is awesome. Our Navigator has helped several parents from my room find services that they were really struggling to find. When you've got a kid with disabilities, there are a lot of organizations that do not provide what you need, even for things like daycare. If you're not at school and your parent needs to work, they really struggle for who will watch my child who has autism or who has a physical disability. We need more services to help these families, and the Navigator really helped a couple of my families find what they needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, at this time, there's a recommendation for the, oh. We can bring it on up, sir. Thank you. Once again, there's forms up here on this table. There might be forms at the back table as well if you would like to speak to an item. That's fine.
Good evening. Hi, I'm James Washington with James B. Washington Education and Sports. And I've seen several of y'all in some meetings. I just pop in and been trying to keep up with what's going on. And so I guess now we're getting here. So now I just want to talk about our organization, JBWS. We're after school program. We've been doing it for 5 years. We're located at 2020 North Palafox. We have at-risk kids in the underserved community, and our kids are doing wonderful. We have a small place. We've outgrown that place. As a matter of fact, the 2020 location on Palafox has become more of elementary school because we have tutoring 4 to 6. I was a little late. We just got out of tutoring 4 to 6. And the middle school kids that was in the program in elementary have gone on to middle school. They get out of school later. So those kids have tutoring at Wedgewood Community Center. So that's 2 locations. In addition to that, we are trying to get this building off the ground at 3920 West Navy Boulevard. We'll have academic tutorial. We have basketball. The kids come in, they do their work, they get a snack, then they go play sports. And that way, those kids that will be at home doing nothing in those areas or walk outside in their community where it's high crime, drugs, high teenage pregnancy, high illiteracy. These kids have something to do every day, 3 to 4 days a week. They play basketball also, very competitive basketball program. And that was the bait we used to get the kids, because when we come in that community, we want to do tutoring, we may get 1 or 2 kids. We said sports, we end up with 2 or 3 busloads of kids. Dr. Smith, I'd love to meet with you. Ms. Hightower, I need to kind of talk to you guys. Mr. Mayor, I need to see you too. There's a lot of you. I see you, I need to talk to you. My bad, excuse me. I need to sit down and talk. But anyway, long story short, our program is expanding, is doing very well. We do not let the kids play sports if they do not have the grades. But with inflation, everything just costing so much. They remodeling our building, so we were paying a reasonable amount of rent, and we know it's gonna go up in December. I would love to sit down and explain the whole program. Our kids do field trips. We take them to museums, college visits. We do arts and crafts. We do 1,000 different things with the kids. I agree with the transportation is hard, but sometimes we just have to get out here and do what we have to do. We would love to get some revenue from the Escambia County Trust Fund for all the work that we're doing in the community. Anybody have any questions?
Ms. Washington, I have a question. I was actually just
Yes.
thinking about you earlier. Have you seen this request for proposal for out-of-school time program?
For who?
There's a request for proposals that potentially we're going to vote on tonight about out-of-school time programs for funding for after-school care programs.
Are we included in it? Because it must not include us, because I haven't seen it.
Well, okay,
I don't
so the
think-
question
we
I really
haven't-
have for you is, do you know how to fill out a request for proposal to
Okay,
get
well,
money from the organization?
Yeah, we haven't voted on that yet, and so
I
once
know
we
we
vote
haven't
on
voted
it.
on it yet, but
they'll
it's
have
still
a-
been out on the.
Right, and that goes for everyone else is here who also is speaking too. So what we can do, and they're gonna have a, time when they're gonna explain it to us. They're gonna have a time, so he can definitely apply for that, and they'll have a grant time.
Okay, well, my question was a simple one. Does he know how to fill out a request for proposal?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay,
If you give it
thank
to me, we'll figure it out, though, whatever we need to do.
That's what I needed to know.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else? All right, no?
Ben, it was good seeing you today at lunch at First Baptist.
Yeah, good to see you too. I keep passing by you, but I want to sit down and talk to
Yeah,
you. And
yeah,
I appreciate all you do, man.
Yeah,
You do a
appreciate
lot.
you, man. You got to
Yeah.
speak to me.
Okay. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.
All right, anyone else on the needs assessment like to speak? All right, now we have a staff recommendation for the board to approve the needs assessment as presented. Is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to commend the staff. This was a very large undertaking, and the listening sessions they had, and then the opportunity for public feedback, I just really appreciate the work and the effort that went into putting this document together.
So any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Next, we have business item A3, the adoption of Escambia Children's Trust 2022 strategic plan for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. The staff recommends the board approve the strategic plan as presented. Oh, hold on, and we have two people who would like to speak to that. Ms. Rogers with Art Gateway.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing the opportunity tonight. At the Art Gateway, we provide services to children who have developmental delays and diagnosed disabilities by providing developmental, speech, physical, occupational therapies, as well as early intervention. Some children may have mild delays, but others may have actual diagnoses of cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, things of that nature. Research has shown us that 1 out of 3 children who receive early intervention services will not need special ed by the time they get to kindergarten. Identifying these children as early as possible is critical to the impact that services may have on these children and their development. Without early intervention, children may need special ed or future services as an adult because of the impact of their delays. In our community, we are not identifying these children early enough or in a timely manner in order to make the greatest impact. Physicians, early educators, and parents at large have not been fully educated about the importance of early brain development. Additionally, funding to these services has remained relatively unchanged for nearly 30 years. Given funding restrictions, the Early Steps eligibility criteria has narrowed to only allow us to serve children with the most significant delays, which has further limited access to the children who need our services. Imagine if every child had what they needed when they needed it. The potential for this community is here now with the Escambia County Children's Trust. The Art Gateway has been an active partner in the campaign for the trust. We're excited for the opportunities proposed in the strategic plan and hope that we can continue to play a role in its implementation. The potential for matching funds and special project funding could allow our agency to identify these children earlier and provide the services that they need. So thank you all, and we hope to be a partner with you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rogers. Next, we have Ms. Bickerstaff.
Good evening, everyone. As you stated, I'm Marianne Bickerstaff, a lifelong resident of Escambia County, and as the Children's Services Director for the Art Gateway, I've had the privilege to work alongside an amazing group of professionals who are dedicated to helping our youngest citizens who have developmental delays and diagnosed disabilities to achieve their healthiest possible growth and development. Last year, we served more than 900 children in Escambia and Santa Rosa County, with more than 85% of them being residents of Escambia County. Our CEO, Missy, just spoke to you and shared with you about our pediatric therapy services, the long-term benefit of children not requiring special education, and the concern that children are not identified early enough to help them reach their developmental potential. I want to share with you some of the data. The Centers for Disease Control reports that 17% of children ages 3 to 17 years are diagnosed with a developmental disability. However, in 2021, only 2.7% of infants and toddlers in Escambia County received early intervention services. This gap shows that we are significantly behind in identifying the children early enough to make the best impact on their development. Through expansion funding, we can make an even greater impact serving those children with mild delays so they can show up ready for kindergarten. While timely identification is crucial, we also have a critical shortage of pediatric therapy providers in our community. It's not uncommon for children to wait 3 months for an evaluation and then an extended period then to begin services. Burdensome credentialing processes take up to 6 months for the managed care Medicaid entities to approve a provider. With expansion funding, we could begin services for these children immediately without this unnecessary delay. I've heard the impact of the Children's Services Councils and communities throughout Florida for many years. I've served as the co-chair for the Developmental Screening Task Force with the Achieve Escambia. We know of effective models nationally for early identification, screening, and follow-up that are effective, but have always lacked the funding for implementation. This was part of the impetus for the campaign for this Children's Trust, and as one of the partners in this effort, it's so thrilling to stand before you tonight and just to be able to even talk about the opportunities for our children. While not physically present, I have been with you remotely or listened to every one of your meetings. Because of your work is so important, we've continued to convene the Kindergarten Readiness Collective Action Network so that partners in early education can identify and implement collaborative initiatives addressing the most pressing needs of our young children. I'm excited for the work you have done on the proposed strategic plan and applaud you for your perseverance. Because of the work you are doing, we can now imagine a community where there is a comprehensive, coordinated system for all children.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bickerstaff. All right, those are the only two.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I've literally been on the phone today talking with the former circuit judge, Dan Heiser, and I think he came in, and JJ laughed, but he's kind of worked on these issues for a long time. And so he probably didn't know the sign up, but would you mind giving him 3 minutes, former Judge Dan Heiser?
If he would, yeah, he needs to, yeah. Would you like to speak?
Could he just fill it out after he speaks, please?
That's fine,
Yep.
if you want to, yeah, of course.
Good evening, I'm Tom Danheiser, and as Commissioner May said, former judge, but I just wanted to come before you and thank you for all your efforts. I'm a little late for the needs assessment, and I'm at a disadvantage because I really haven't had an opportunity to read it and you've probably addressed this already, but as some of you may know, there's a big issue that I've been involved in over the years, especially since I was a judge, and that's the absence of a responsible fatherhood program in Escambia County. And if you were asking me to study fighting lung cancer, well, I'd ask you, what causes someone 20 more times likely to get lung cancer? Well, that's smoking. Well, the statistics show that the absence of a father in the home, and I'll get the statistics right because it was from President Obama's speech, that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of schools, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. So I would just urge the trust, to the extent it can, as part of its component of its library of actions it works on is to try to seek out an organization or group who can work on an effective fatherhood program. When we have an out-of-wedlock birth rate over 50% in Escambia County, it just sets children behind and is a challenge that makes it all that more difficult to overcome. So I just want to put that 2 cents in for hopefully the trust can seek a program that can help our youth in that area. And also, I second Coach Washington. Anything you can do to help him. He worked with me as a judge to try to keep young men out of prison, and he does great work. But thank you.
Thank you, Judge. All right, at this time, there's a recommendation that the board approve the strategic plan as presented. Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion on the strategic plan?
Madam Chair, I have a question on, it is item 3 on page 3, which is our packet, page 140. And it states in there about issuing an ITB or intent to bid to fund a local provider to develop a comprehensive coordinated system to perform routine health assessments, including preventive care, wellness visits, mental health immunization, screenings for vision health, etc., but doesn't make any comment about actually procuring provision of services. And it would be similar to what was mentioned previously of finding a hearing deficit, a vision deficit, etc., but then saying, okay, we've documented one more child with a vision deficit, next. And I would suggest a addition in there pertaining to assessments are great, but then having found any issues that there be provision of services or working to improve access to services or something along those lines, in addition to simply assessing for further need. We've done that. We know those needs are there. Now we need to begin providing services.
I'll let Tammy speak to that, Ms. Greer, or Dr. Krupa.
Yes, Dr. Northup, that's exactly what this would do. It's both developing the coordinated system and funding the network of services that would be referred to what we call linkage rates. So in year 1, this is what you're looking at, what we could feasibly do by both developing the coordinated system and beginning to find gaps in services and shortening wait lists.
Okay.
So it's both funding the central referral system and the services that the children are being referred to.
So when you do the ITB, you will do, because I think I understand what you're saying. You don't see that it has that follow through.
Correct.
And we know in the school system with our mental health services, sometimes they get notification, but then that follow up to make sure that the next step happens.
Right.
And
In
so
this case,
when you
we'd be
do
looking-
that, that would be included, that they would have that in there is.
We would be looking for follow-through for at least 18 months.
Okay.
I think too, just another point of discussion is that we specifically talked at our meeting that this was for 0 to 5 kids, because it was not supplanting what has been offered through the school system, that it was for early children.
Exactly, that's what the gap is.
And we can amend the wording if that is better, just to make it clear.
Yes.
We can amend
that
the
would-
wording for you. And then also keep in mind that no ITB will be released until it comes back before the board, so that you have the opportunity to review the entire document before it's released as well.
So is there an amendment to the motion? Dr. Northup?
Yes, please. That just assuages my fear of governmental actions of unfunded mandates and that type of thing that we identify further, which is we've just approved a needs assessment. We know these needs are there. What we're now about is addressing and meeting those needs.
Do you need an amendment that would say to add I'm trying to decide how to say it, to add an 18-month follow-up,
That works.
something at the end that says to include an 18-month follow-up. I don't know that that works for the people that put it out, but is that what you're trying to?
Perform routine health assessments and when necessary, provision of services to address, complete the rest of it, or something to that effect.
Is there a second to that amended motion? Right. Which would be to accept the RFP with the change in number 2. Number 3, sorry, the strategic plan. Sorry, yeah, the strategic plan with the change in number 3.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion on the strategic plan? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, y'all. All right, now we're on to business item A4, acceptance to the sole source vendor for online data management system, the SAMIS. And the staff recommends that the board approve resolution 2022-07, authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with WebAuthor and the Florida Alliance of Children's Councils and Trusts for the purchase, implementation, and use of the Services and Activities Management Information System, the SAMIS platform, which was developed primarily for use by government agencies and the Children's Services Council. Is there a motion to entertain
So moved.
Second.
this? Any discussion?
Well, except that we don't have an amount in this resolution that came out in the agenda.
I think it was in the
It's
budget, but
It's in the, it's on the, it's in the.
There's a letter
It's
too.
not in the resolution.
What, yeah.
Okay. The resolution that I printed from the website.
yeah, it says where is the $58,500 cost?
Where did you find that?
It's in the resolution itself.
Yes.
The line right before now be it resolved.
Yes. Where's
What's the issue, Tammy?
It's on page 5 of where we are, but.
Page 142 of our
142.
packet.
Thank you.
It's about the middle of the page, as Ms. Hightower noted.
Yeah.
Yes, it says 58, whereas the $58,500 cost of the system is within the budgeted amount for the software.
And do we need the executive director to kind of say what we're getting?
Yeah, that can be discussion. Would you like to
Yeah.
explain, Ms.
Or
Abrams?
whomever is
Ms.
going to be
Abrams is gonna be doing
the
it
user
mostly.
of it.
Yes, the SAMIS system is, as it says, was developed specifically for Children's Services Councils and Trust, and it collects just an amazing amount of data. So when we start funding programs, that will allow the different programs that we fund to directly upload all of their student data, their participant data. It'll also allow us to provide reports to the board. It'll allow us to provide reports and updates against our needs assessment. How much, Tammy has a breakdown for what is the piece that is the data collection and management portion of it, but then there's also a separate module that will allow us to have grant applications submitted electronically online, so it'll make the whole system a lot smoother with our grant applications. And then it'll also allow us to push those applications out, and of course, everything will be password protected, so it's a very secure system, but it'll also allow us to then push those same applications out to the reviewers so that they can review the applications and score them and do all of that inside the system. And then it makes it a whole lot easier for public records requests because everything's contained in there. So it's a pretty robust system. Did I answer your question? And Tammy has the breakdown of the cost for each of the different pieces.
I think my follow-up question would be, is there going to be a cost to the applicants to use the SAMIS? We absorb all of the cost of them using that? Okay.
Absolutely, we absorb all of the cost.
And Tammy, how many, or Ms. Greer, how many other children's services councils use the SAMIS? I mean, how many children's services councils are there for the public, and how many actually use this system?
There are 13 now. Well, one is dependent, so there are 2 are dependent. And of those, I think 9 use SAMIS. And the ones that don't use SAMIS, one of them used to, so.
And it's pretty much, they are pretty much the sole source that provides that service. It's not a competitor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion on the acceptance of SAMUS and the recommendation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're on action item A5, acceptance of bid for the MIP Fund Accounting Solution. And the recommendation is that the board approve resolution 2022-08, authorizing the executive director, Ms. Greer, to enter into an agreement with the Community Brands for the purchase, implementation, and use of the MIP Fund Accounting Platform, which will integrate with the fiscal component of SAMUS. Do you want to explain that real quick before we do them? Ms. Abrams?
Yes. MIP is a fund accounting system that's set up where we can track individually each independent grant if we get to a grant person. It also is one that I have used previously, so we wouldn't have a lot of training costs and a lot of time down with learning the system. So it is set up, it is used by a lot of municipalities, it is used by a lot of nonprofits. I have roughly 10 years experience with it, and it will very much handle all of our software accounting needs that we have.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept this recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. At our last meeting, we talked about not needing the accounting services. Is this the program that you were talking about you would need to be able to give them notice? Thank you.
Yes, it will take approximately 4 months to get the system up totally. They're going to have to program in all of our general ledgers and all of our departments, all that stuff we need, and set it up so it's customized for us. And that'll take about 4 months, so we will give them notice as we get closer to that period.
All right, seeing no more discussion, all in favor of the acceptance of bid for the MIP Fund Accounting Solution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. All right, next we're on to our program part. Program B1 is the unsolicited grant applications from Escambia County. Are there any comments from the floor? Okay. Staff recommends that the board, number one, approve resolution 2022-09, authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with the Early Learning Coalition of Escambia County to fund the unsolicited application for a matching grant in the amount of $238,875 to provide up to a 1-to-1 match of funding from the Florida Division of Early Learning effective October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. And number two, that the remaining applicants be returned to the county for consideration and the applicants be encouraged to apply for funding under future ECT requests for proposal solicitations, if applicable, including the out-of-school time RFP to be considered by the board later on this agenda. Is there a motion on the floor to accept this recommendation?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
when you say that this is a recommendation by Escambia County, it was just not one organization, it was multiple organizations, correct?
Right, right. It's all the grant applications that came from the Escambia County, from the
County
commissioners that was forwarded to Ms.
Right.
Greer.
So for point of clarification for me, are we recommending all of the organizations that were sent from the county, or are we just recommending one of the organizations?
We're recommending
this one.
the Early Learning Coalition to get the matching grant, and the rest of them to apply for a later RFP, probably the out-of-school time.
So my question would be why, if you're taking the county's recommendation for all the organizations, why are we just only taking one? Which I'm supportive of, but why are we only taking one?
I'll turn it over to Ms. Greer to answer that question.
We're actually not taking the county's recommendation for funding.
Well, that's a real point of clarification, because that's how the motion was just made, that we're taking the county's recommendation.
It was the staff's recommendation. The county forwarded them for consideration.
Right.
By the-
Well, I understand that, Tim, but what Madam Chair said, it was a recommendation from the county. And so if it's, I mean, I wouldn't not accept that, because I know the county recommended all of the organizations. So if it's a staff recommendation, I'm fine with that, Madam Chair. But we said that it's a county recommendation.
Well, it was my understanding that the county,
I may have misspoke.
Oh.
I just read what was said, and maybe I said, instead of staff, maybe I said county, but I meant to say staff recommends the board. So I thought I just read what it was written, but.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm good with that. I mean, but it doesn't negate that if we're going to take the county's recommendation for one organization, I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't take the county recommendation from all of them unless there's some circumstances in which we should consider this and not consider the other organization. Because I would say Benny Washington showed up tonight and he was a part of those that we recommended to this trust.
well, for one thing, the county application did not answer a lot of the questions that we needed for those other programs. The other programs that were up for consideration were basically out-of-school time programs. And if we were going to fund something like that, we would really want to have more performance indicators. We would want to know which of our needs assessment indicators that individual project is going to address. Also, they may wish to apply for more funding. They may wish to do things that they could not include within the confines of the county's application. So in order to give them a fair opportunity, it would be better to lend those to the RFP process, which is also on the board's agenda for consideration. The other thing is, the only two kinds of programs that we can take right now for consideration under our existing policy as an unsolicited application, and remember, these came from the county. We did not solicit these. This was not our application process. So the county forwarded them to us for consideration. So the only ones that we could consider are those that would be for matching, and we have a definition of matching, and that's the one that the Early Learning Coalition application could be considered because it is matching, so that's why it was put on here, or for a special initiative. And because we had 6 of them come in as out-of-school time programs, we know that they're not particularly sole source special initiatives. So it didn't meet our criteria to come in as an unsolicited grant application. The only one that met the criteria to be considered was the Early Learning Coalition application, because it's a one-to-one match, and they cannot draw down their dollars from the state unless they get local dollars to match it. So that's why that one was recommended by the staff, just because it fit. And
So none of the other ones had any match is what I'm to understand? None of the other ones that were recommended by the county?
that is right. That was,
Okay.
if there was any matching, it wasn't indicated in their application to the county. And again,
And that's fine. I mean, for me, it just has to be parity and equity for all the organizations. Listen, if it's a staff recommendation unsolicited, I'm good. If it says, because I'm a part of the county, that it was recommended by the county and we're funding this because of the county, I just want to make sure that if there's any criteria that any of those other organizations could have met, the same as their meeting, that they should be under consideration. That's my point.
and they would absolutely be under consideration if they responded to our RFP.
Okay, so this was a response to our RFP and not a county recommendation?
No. But if you read the resolution,
I've read the resolution.
it clearly states that it was from a forwarded application. It does not indicate that it was recommended. It just was from an application that was sent to us.
And to that point, Patty, I clearly understand that. To that point, there was multiple organizations that were forwarded, not just one. Right.
Madam Chair? Yes, ma'am. We are going to be voting on correct an RFP for out-of-school time funding, as Executive Director Greer indicated, and all of these programs that we are looking at on the sheet are all out-of-school times programs. And as Ms. Greer said, they may be a need for them to request additional funding once they see the RFP, which hopefully we will approve later on in the agenda.
And one other thing, I do believe that each of those organizations was contacted and did we contact them to let them know what the status was when they were forwarded? Because I do know what the county commissioner said when they sent it to us, so.
Because we didn't have any direct we didn't solicit the applications, we responded to the county and said that we would send them to our board and we would consider them under our policy. And when we received them, we didn't even have a policy for how we would do grant making. So I responded to the county, and I couldn't respond to the individual applicants until we had a decision from the board as to whether or not we even wanted to consider them.
And that's a very valid point, Patty, but I'll tell you, I trust Benny Washington, to be honest. And when the honorable judge asked one question, he said he had never heard of it. So, I mean, obviously it was not given to everybody. So, I mean, not everyone received it. And so, and that's fine. I mean, I know that we're going to do out of school, and, you know, I'm not going to uphold it. I mean, you know, so we can move forward. Just want that clarification of where we are from a county, and this is not a county. The county is not determining what the county said, and so for us to be clear, so there won't be many miscommunication, the county has put a placeholder for each of these organizations, and if they're not funded by the trust, they still have the opportunity to come back to the county. And so it's not the county dictating or supporting or trying to get the trust to fund anything. It just gave them a recommendation because they provide services to children that they can come to the trust and get probably a better opportunity, as each of you have said, to get greater funding.
All right, I think we still need a motion.
I have a question too.
Oh, you have a question?
So, is there anybody here tonight that was expecting us to talk about their, outside of Mr. Watson? I see Mr. Watson in the all, but there were several others that went to the county commission, and what the county commission said was, this is discretionary funding. They don't have to fund it every year. I don't want to have a gap in funding if somebody's, I guess they can go back to the county, what Mr. May just said.
Yeah, if they're not funded, they could.
Last Tuesday night, they were zeroed out, the budget, I believe.
Right. Well, we got a second budget hearing.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to fall through the cracks tonight that needed, that we're expecting some type of outcome. That's all.
All right, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
I have some. And I wrote my comments because I wanted to make sure I stayed on point and didn't go rogue. Section 125-9018 of the Florida statute, which created this trust, specifically says that it is the intent of the legislature that the funds collected pursuant to the provisions of this section shall be used to support improvements in children's services, and that such funds shall not be used as a substitute for existing resources or for resources that would otherwise be available for children's services. Now, I find it interesting that specifically you now have just admitted that the county has kicked this to us, but that there's a placeholder for them in case we say no. And I don't know what the definition of supplant is, or substitute, if that's not it. And I appreciate that we call it discretionary, but it's my understanding that the Early Learning Coalition has gotten this money for 21 years straight, and that the only reason that the county's not talking about funding it is because they think we might fund it. And my concern, of course, is that if we set ourselves up to, in fact, just be a reapportioned entity, that we are not, in fact, fulfilling our legislative duty, which is my concern. I mean, this is supposed to be new money. This is not supposed to be organizations or other agencies or other entities that are now saying, hey, now that we have trust money, they can pay for it and we don't have to. That defeats the whole purpose. That wasn't what the voters wanted. That's not what we've set out to do. So and again, I hate that, the Early Learning Coalition and these other organizations, have got caught in the crosshairs of this. But again, as in my capacity here, in my role, I don't think that it's appropriate at all that we support.
Your Honor, we've had lots of discussions with our council about this, Ms. Greer and Ms. Bush and I, about this, and we looked into the definition of supplant, and we've looked in what discretionary funds means, and so we've gone round and around and around and around on this same issue. So,
which I appreciate, and
yes.
Ms. Bush and I talked, and I appreciate that the county could potentially send it to us, and that we can vote on it, but that doesn't mean we should vote on it. And I think that was the discussion Ms. Bush and I have had, and quite frankly, Mr. Dunaway had at our last meeting, that what is the policy of this board going to be when it gets requests to, in fact, reapportion monies?
If you're talking to me, I'm happy to answer. I don't mind talking. You went to law school. I ain't never even dated a lawyer, so it doesn't really matter to me. The reality of it is, So one of the commissioners said it may be a placeholder, it may not. Any given Thursday, anything may happen. So what they can do, I mean, the point is, what I've said, the Honorable Judge, is we didn't force anybody to come apply for the trust. That's at their discretion, at their board direction. So if they want to come apply for the trust, they can. If they want to come back and apply at our second board hearing, they can. I mean, that's up to them. They may or may not get it. I don't know. I mean, I'm only 1 of 5. You know, I got about 20% of what happens on the dais. And so, you know, this will be a decision that this trust can make. But what I will say is that, you know, I'm not speaking as a county commissioner. I'm speaking as a person that serves on the trust, you know, that there should be equity and equality to all organizations. You just can't designate one organization and give them privilege and don't give the other organizations the same treatment. That's my point. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we've already started the discussion on this, so we have to do it before we start the discussion. I'm sorry. But if you want to speak to another item, you're more than welcome to come speak to another item later tonight.
So, in Honorable Judge, I can't say JJ, but Honorable Fred Hovich. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Hovich, you know, Judge. I'm from the hood.
I like the honorable.
You like the Honorable?
I like the honorable.
Well, yeah, well, it could be Marcy.
I have lots of them to do.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure the kids in juvenile don't know your name.
They get away with it.
They get away with it, yeah. You have some very valid points. And so you're by statute, and so I'm not the attorney to determine whether or not we're abiding by the statute. I certainly can articulate from my position and not representing my board of what the intended, in my opinion, was in telling people to come to the Children's Trust. And so I would just tell you this: we're probably not going to fund any more youth programs out of the county. I mean, and so we have less than $500,000 of funding for outside agency funding beyond those that were mandated from Gulf Coast Kids House, Community Health. I mean, there's just not a lot of money to be funded from the county's position.
Well, and again, I'm only speaking to the resolution, which is for the Early Learning Coalition. I'm not talking about the other organizations that were passed on to us. And I appreciate Ms. Grove's comments. Mine were specifically to this resolution that has been moved.
Dr. Krupa, is there something you wanted to add, staff?
I was just going to point out to Commissioner May's point about the county's budget for external funds. And what we're looking at with the strategic plan you just approved is a $5.8 million line for out-of-school time programs. So we're really excited about working with all the applicants for really competitive and robust programs that offer a lot more flexibility than the county.
Thank you, Ms. Krupka.
Any more discussion on unsolicited grant applications that were forwarded from Escambia County?
I would just like to say, Judge, I appreciate you clarifying that. My understanding when we talked about this before was that if this is not funded, children would not have after school, and there was not a discussion that there was a possibility that they could go back. So thank you for reading and clarifying what you read.
I mean, and to respond to that, I mean, again, I can't promise that the county is going to do
Yeah.
it. I mean, I don't think that it is fair to this board that we were told, you all are responsible for this now, and if you don't, then we don't have an early learning coalition.
And that's what my understanding was as well.
Madam Chair, and I don't know, Tammy, maybe you can, did the county forward the application, or did they just forward names? Or did they forward the applications with recommendations, or did they just forward some names of people that didn't get funded?
They forwarded the applications, but they did not recommend them for funding. They said, I can find the
Right. No,
email and read it to you if you'd like.
No, it's not necessary.
Yeah, they funded, or they forwarded all of the applications, but again, those applications were for a workforce type program. They were not for a children's services program. And so in speaking to, again, the reason we selected one and not the other is only because of if we take all of those out-of-school time programs, for example, and we say right now, if the board decides that you want to fund those, then we've gone completely against our whole process and procedure. And what we've signaled is you can apply anywhere else, and then if that agency bumps it to the Children's Trust, then we're just going to automatically fund it, and then our process be damned because we don't follow it. So we've got to follow our process, if nothing else. And the process is, if we get an unsolicited application, it has to come under one of two categories. It has to be a sole source special initiative in the community that would not lend itself to an RFP. None of those out-of-school time programs fit that, because we are going to be considering an RFP later on your agenda for exactly what they're proposing to do, except instead of having a $500,000 pot of money that they could draw from, they'll have a $5 million pot of money, so they actually have a much greater opportunity to do more stuff. So talk about equity, we're trying to be much more equitable and give them what they really need. And then the one that we did recommend go forward is because it does not lend itself to an RFP, because we wouldn't put out an RFP for Early Learning Coalition services because there's only one Early Learning
Tammy,
Coalition.
me and you are on the same page.
Oh, okay.
No,
All
no,
right,
no,
I
me
got
and you are on the same
Okay.
page.
I just want to make it really clear
there's
why we
nobody
picked
else
it.
that does what Bruce does. I
Yeah.
mean, and
All right.
so there are other people
yeah.
who have to go. So we're on the same page. So
Okay, I just want to be very clear
no.
that we are not trying to create an inequitable situation, and we're not saying that the Children's Trust wouldn't fund them. We're saying we need to follow a process.
And the point is just for questions, for clarity, so people like those who applied would know. So I'm certainly agreeing with what you're saying.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Madam Chair, so in a nutshell, you're saying that we agree to this recommendation that will keep us on par with the processes that we have already set in place. It will also simultaneously go with what Judge Frajohovich has said to keep us
Oh, you're a preacher. You
line.
pronounced that. That's pretty good. Wow.
In line with the state statute as well, correct? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Smith?
Yes, so Madam Chair, I think there's been a lot of good points raised. Judge Frajohovich, I appreciate you bringing up that whole section of we've got to be careful we're not supplanting, and I think that is an important discussion point. So Executive Director Greer, thank you for explaining that whole essential component that we need to follow our process, that especially coming out of the gate, we absolutely do need to have integrity and follow that to the T. I would agree wholeheartedly. I would like to add one point, just in advocating for this. I'm really encouraged that early childhood is a key focus. I think that resonated loudly and clearly through the needs assessment and through the strategic plan. So this initiative really seems to be on point to me as far as those documents and that work.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of the recommendation as I previously read, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
I
I sit on the board of the Early Learning Coalition of Escambia.
Okay.
Oh, is there a form?
There's a form that they
So
can get
Ms.
for
Sidoti
you.
is going to abstain, and then the nays were?
Me?
How many nays were
Just one.
Just one.
So the motion passes. All right, the next is Program B12, the unsolicited grant application, the sole source special community initiatives for the Children's Home Society. The recommendation is the board approve resolution 2022-10 authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with the Children's Home Society, or CHS, to fund their unsolicited sole source special community initiatives proposal in the amount of $77,658 to fund personnel to replicate their successful community partnership school model at Pine Forest High School, effective October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2025, subject to the trust's annual budget and trim process. The grant will complement a $225,000 legislative appropriation to CHS managed by the University of Central Florida. the partnership among CHS Western Region, Escambia County School District, and Pine Forest High School, the University of West Florida, and the Community Health Northwest Florida is the only recipient of the legislative appropriation and is therefore a sole source project. Is there a motion on the table to recommend this?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Discussion?
I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair, and/or to our staff. I was not clear, we're matching a $225,000 legislative appropriation with our $77,000, which is at 225 for the total 3 years of the, this project, or is it 225 per year? And is our 77,000 that we're talking about approving here a one-time 77,000, or is that yearly for 3 years?
I have questions.
Is it-
Great questions, Dr. Northup. The legislative appropriation, if they get it, will be about $80,000 this year, and then $150,000 every year after, as long as they remain certified, which they will be. And we're anticipating this will be an annual request for 3 years. But right now, this is just for the 1 year.
So the $77,000 from us is potentially going to be requested again next year?
Yes, sir. And it may go up if they need to match more next
money
year,
and
but,
get a greater grant.
right.
Okay. So we're matching with the 77, we're matching roughly 80,000 for this first year.
Yes, sir. And Chandra Smiley is here to speak if you have specific questions about the project as well.
Yeah, Superintendent Smith, I mean, you're, I know Ms. Smiley's here, but you're engaged. I mean, I think you put in some equity from the district. I mean, does this represent all the money that the district is putting in this as well?
Well, with Community Partnership School, there are a lot of moving pieces. So you can get into positions, it's a very intertwined network. And you have partnerships, there's a lot to it, and it's very comprehensive. And to that point, Madam Chair, I also wanted to raise that I probably need to abstain from that and need to have a form to fill out.
Well, I mean, I will say, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing at CA Wise, and I hope it's at Pine Forest, and I hope that we can get it to a middle school. I mean, I think it's important work.
Yes.
But I know Lindsay is not here, unfortunately. Most of us know what she's dealing with her family. I wish she was here, but I'm glad Ms. Smiley's here.
I had a point, again, maybe I printed the agenda documents too soon, but the resolution itself, 2210, says whereas 77,000+ is within the budget amount, but then it goes on to say the Board of Directors does hereby authorize to enter into a grant in the amount of 238,000.
It should be for the 77,000. Sorry about that, yeah. Before these are signed, we'll make sure that we have all the right numbers in there. Oh, it's right in yours, okay, okay. Yeah, we sent updated resolutions because we realized the numbers were all wonky on some of those, so I apologize.
I asked for the updates for it, so
There also are, Commissioner May, you were talking about costs. An example of that too could be a facility cost too. So there are just many.
Well, I mean, I just didn't think it adequately represented, I mean, the good equity that you are putting forth as a member of doing this at Pine Forest. And so I just wanted to give the school board, your recognition. I think that you guys are contributing, if nothing else, utilities and property and buildings as a partner with them.
Yeah. Thank you for that, yes.
Yeah.
Could I ask the attorney something? Is it going to be necessary for the superintendent and myself as a board member to abstain from this?
The abstention would come into play only if you were going to personally inure a benefit or financial gain. Simply the fact that in your day-to-day lives you're involved in the school operations or in creation of these sorts of organizations, you would not necessarily need to abstain. mean, that's the reason you're on the board, you know. in all
Thank you.
likelihood.
I can also add with this that with the community partnership schools, it is operated out of the University of Central Florida, and there's a board, and I am a board member on that. So I don't know if that has impact either.
So that very well may. I believe our policies do note that board members of the trust would not vote on applications or be involved in the receipt of, issuance of funds when they also serve on the board. So the fact that you are on the board for the organization soliciting the funds would come into play, not just the fact that you are the superintendent of schools.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Can I get some clarification on what the supplies would be, the $23,611?
I think Ms. Smiley's
Ms. Smiley, would you like to address that?
Well, I apologize. I'm trying to, fill in for Lindsay. The $23,000 in supplies, I'm not really sure what they are for. I do know setting up the partnership school, it comes with additional staff needing. The $77,000 mainly goes towards salaries for supporting the community school director, which is important when you're trying to set up this partnership. And then I think general office supplies and transportation support.
Could it possibly also be some medical supplies through the
No,
clinic?
that comes out of our budget.
Okay.
So that is not a part of this proposal.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the medical supplies and all of that would be provided through the clinic is on us.
What about the food that you supply? Food, would that be considered?
Yes, certainly throughout the community partnership school, addressing food disparities is one of the critical components.
Ms. Smiley, I know Ms. Lindsay's not here, but I mean, what a great program you guys had at First Baptist today at the luncheon. So it was great to see the community partners and all the people that were being benefited by Children and Family Services. So
Thank you.
you guys are doing great work.
We're excited about this project. I think it's a great opportunity to expand the community school concept into a high school that also serves several schools. So thank you for the opportunity.
Superintendent Smith, I mean, I'd just love to hear your guidance. I mean, even if you can't vote.
Well, I would love to share that.
Because JJ will read something that's not there, that is there.
I can reflect off of CA Weiss. That's been an incredible partnership of different community agencies. It has provided so many important services, and when you look at some of the needs that our students have before learning takes place, sometimes we need to meet those needs depending upon what they are. Maybe it's a empty stomach, maybe it's eyeglasses, the list goes on and on. So at CA Weiss, there is a converted classroom where there's a clinic there, and people from the community can come in and receive services as well as the children in the school. And that's an example of what can happen. We know wraparound services are really important for a lot of our kids and our families. So this is a really vibrant concept. It's one that's been around for a number of years, and throughout the state of Florida on a smaller level, it's growing. And so Pine Forest would be it's a perfect location too, because there's so many people who live in that area, but it could also serve other schools nearby. You've got a big presence there of our district on that block. So there's just so much good that can come out of it.
Well, I appreciate it. And plus, you're going to go to state championship in football this year.
There you go. That's
did-
right.
I did just get information on the $23,000 supplies, and it's an array of items: parent engagement activity items, food for activities, clothing, general supplies for the kids, hygiene items, etc. And when I met with Lindsay and Leah Harrison about this separate prior to them applying, I asked them why Pine Forest, and they said it's one of the feeder schools for Weiss. Weiss goes to Pine Forest, so it's just continually in that wraparound for those kids at Weiss, so.
And, Superintendent, if there was one for a middle school, like Warrenton Middle School, all throughout my district, I'd be very supportive because I think the continuation from elementary to middle to high school is important.
And one of the conversations I've had with the director out of UCF is how can we replicate this concept, because there's a large expense to it and a sustained expense. So is there a way we can bring this concept, maybe not in the exact same format that it is with CA Weiss, but could we bring it in a less expensive way to more schools? Because in our district, I would love to have that concept spread throughout many of our schools with high needs families, so.
Stephanie, Madam Chair, could you repeat what you said, please?
Yes, just one second. I texted Leah Harrison, who works for CHS, just for disclosure. Parent engagement activity items, food for activities, clothing, general supplies for the kids, hygiene items, etc. So.
And could I also get some clarification on what the $1,200 for mileage is?
Just one second.
I think I know the community school director at Weiss does a lot of traveling around the community, going into
Right.
homes, so I'd assume to cover
Probably
that.
covers that. So,
And Ms. Woods, we can send you the original Children's Home Society application where they've got more of a budget narrative explaining what all the line items are.
any more discussion on this item? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstained.
Abstained.
Dr. Smith abstained.
Yes.
All right, now we're on to number 3, responses to RFP outreach and education. The recommendation is the staff recommends the board approve resolution 2022-11, authorizing the executive director not to enter into any agreements as a result of the request for proposals for outreach and education. Only 2 board members returned score sheets for the applications received. The Studer Community Institute withdrew their application from consideration. The members who reviewed the proposals recommended that the board not award funding to either the Kids Club or the Children's Home Society under the RFP as documented on the accompanying score sheets. Is there a motion to approve this recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I would like to add the comment that though I haven't turned it in, I scored these both requests in similar manner as the attached scorecards as well.
Perfect. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next is number 4, request for proposals, the out-of-school time programs, the much anticipated. The recommendation is the board approve the RFP. Oh, hold on, before I start that, we do have a speaker, Ms. McAfee and Ms. Johnson with the Creative School Age Child Care Center Incorporated.
Hi, good evening. I'm Amanda Johnson. I'm the Executive Assistant Director with Creative School Age Child Care. We are a contractor with the Escambia County School District. We provide after-school childcare to 11 elementary schools throughout Escambia County. We have been in business for 34 years. And a little bit about our program, we currently are serving 730 students, and we have a waiting list of over 450 students. After-school programs were originally created in the 80s to meet the needs of those latchkey children that were going home to those empty homes in the afternoons. And today, we still have that need, so we already have recognized that need that we need to expand those services. Our goal as a program is to offer those quality, affordable childcare services to our families while keeping the cost down to our families. It is very important that we need your help to support our programs to increase the curriculum areas in STEM, in social emotional learning, academic assistance, and so many more different areas in addition to just expanding and offering services to more families. Out-of-school time programs in Escambia County does serve obviously thousands of school agers already, and we are ready to submit those proposals to you guys as the Children's Trust. And it's, to assist us in our goal in providing those high-quality programs to our county. Through these grant opportunities, we would like to improve our programs with better curriculum and resources to enrich those high-quality experiences that will help them succeed in both schools, in their lives, and then give them the tools to create a successful future that they can continue to use. As an out-of-school time program, we have the opportunity to reach students and support families in ways unique than the traditional school day, and we hope to capitalize this with this partnership through the trust and these opportunities to capitalize them on this opportunity to the fullest to develop our programs. We are excited about the possibilities that await our students during out-of-school time and urge you to reconsider the funding proposals immediately to allow implementation to occur this school year. Please consider approving the RFPs for out-of-school time programs. We look forward to working with you guys this year, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have another speaker.
Is that going to do that?
You're next. You can.
Okay.
Ms. Fairchild, the Chain Reaction.
Chain Reaction is a teen leadership institute that impacts high school students, also a mother of a child and after-school programs. And I think our after-school opportunities are limitless and can make a huge impact from 0 all the way to the high school. We are seeing things in high school graduation rates senior year. You see issues with kids enrolling in post-secondary, trade school 2-year and 4-year. There's a lot of private services that parents can pay for, but for those who are not, these after-school hours from 3 to 6 can truly change lives. And there's lots of different programs that would, with this additional funding, be able to impact so many other students. And I know we also don't think of high school students in needing aftercare, but when you look at getting into college, FAFSA, all of those things is what happens during those critical hours. We could greatly impact high school dropout rate senior year. I know we're bringing services into the high schools. We're working with Ms. Gordon at Washington with their homeless population and many other nonprofits, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Gulf Coast Kids House. All of these critical services with after-school care could make a huge impact. So I very much appreciate the Children's Trust bringing light to this situation.
Mr. Washington.
I know y'all tired of me, but that's okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
I just want to say, I appreciate the Children's Trust Fund, but a lot of times as a small nonprofit and we are growing rapidly, funding is always a problem. And it seems like in the nonprofit world and the fundraising industry, big fish eat little fish. It's like the bigger organizations get all the funding and there's no funds left for the people like us. And I don't want our group. I'm here to advocate for that. I'm here to fight for that. We have an excellent program. We're doing wonderful things. And I think sometimes kids in the at-risk, underserved communities, low-income housing, they need to see people that look like them. And it's just a natural fact. If a kid go through 1st through 3rd grade, especially an African-American kid who has not had an African-American teacher, then they are 66% more likely not to graduate high school, to drop out. But when they start seeing African-American role models and teachers, businessmen doing things, it inspires our kids. I have kids that tutoring now. I want to play football, I want to play basketball. You know what my kids tell me they want to be now? They want to be president. Kids now want to say they want to be businessmen because why? They see me unlock that door and go in there. They see me writing checks and paying bills. They know how to do a budget. So I just don't want the trust fund to go to the bigger organizations that have more resources already, and then a smaller fish like us that's working hard every day, probably doing more than most with very limited resources to be excluded. And some of the things you was talking about, I never got information. I've gotten a phone call to invite me to the meeting. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But never gotten some of this information. And I just want to make sure that we are included because we are doing it. We can give you all the information how we impact the community, but let's not overlook the smaller guy. Now, sometimes I feel like in doing this for the last 5 years, I see all the big groups getting money. It's almost like, can we set this up like they do in Atlanta and some of the other cities where if the population, African-American population is 29-30% in Escambia County, can 29% or 30% of these funds be allocated to African-American business, African-American nonprofits, church, or whatever? Because when I look at the end of the day, the numbers are not adding up from what I'm seeing. But we out here working every day. We working hard. But I'm not a member of the country club, and I don't go to this, and I don't do the golf, and I don't know the folks. So we get excluded. So please consider JBWES. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few more who want to speak. Hello. Hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Lowe. I am the owner of Kids Club Early Learning and Enrichment Centers. I met some of you guys at the Grants Committee workshop where I kind of bombarded you all thinking it was something else. I'm here, though, to piggyback on what everybody else is saying about the out-of-school program time. Of course, like I told you guys, it's going to take a community effort. It's going to take some collaborations between multiple agencies, multiple small people, small providers like myself, and maybe somebody like Mr. Williams, but it's going to take more than just your traditional people that you guys are looking to help. We need help with our kids. Our kids need a place to go. They need a place that they can have for mental health. There's a lot of kids being killed around here. There's a lot of people have lost siblings. There's a lot of people lost parents. And so we just really need to play on all that. So I'm here to tell you guys again that I'm here to be a foot soldier, to get multiple people, multiple agencies, multiple providers to come in and submit for this RFP. Ms. Tammy's already told me that they're going to have a program where they're going to show people how to actually submit, because I feel like that's the reason that you guys didn't get a lot of proposals. So we're here to try to make sure that we can get the funding into the people's hands, because we need help and we need more than just one person. There's not one community, there's not one agency that's going to be able to do this alone. It's going to take all of us coming together to get the help that the kids need. We need these programs. We need programs for our fathers. We need programs for the dads to come in and step in. We need programs for the parents. Like I said before, if you are a parent and you have to go to work and your children have to stay at home, you're gonna go to work because you're thinking about, I'm not gonna have a place for my child to stay if I don't go to work. So at that point, some parents are leaving their kids at home, and we don't wanna have that situation. We don't wanna have the situation where teenagers are watching kids and they're tired of watching them, and so they're leaving them home. So we just need help, and so I'm just here to kind of make sure that you all are ready to submit this proposal for us so that we can get out, get the providers we need, and we can all come back together in a collaboration effort. That's what we need. So that's what I'm going to say.
Thank you so
okay?
much.
Thank you, guys.
And
Madam Chair?
yes, sir.
Mr. Washington stepped out, but it sounds like he's not on the distribution list. Somebody has his email to make sure that he's getting the emails, and that, just like she said, we're going to have programs to help people on board and understand the process.
Yes,
and
on September, if
what
this is
he spoke
approved,
to,
yes.
what Mr. Washington spoke to, we have discussed and many, it's about making sure that things aren't so complicated that somebody can't apply for it. And it's important to all of us. And so I'm sorry he stepped out, but we will be reaching out, making sure that he's informed, he's doing good work in the community, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Yes, I was just going to say on September, that if this is approved on September 21st, there will be an RFP information session for anyone who is interested in applying for this RFP after school time, to learn how to do it, to learn how to, what the committee needs to look at, and we'll go through steps on how to actually apply for it. So.
And that speaks to the young lady's point. Forgive me for forgetting her name, but she was at the meeting.
Ms. Lowry.
Right here, yes, last time. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Hills, do you want to speak to the out-of-school time? Okay, all right, Mr.
And
Hills.
stay in touch with Tammy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan Hills, and I'm a founder and director of a new organization here in Pensacola called Youth Left Behind. I'm a small organization. I'm new, and I'm putting work in the community, in the urban community, in the low income. I offer peer group empowerment. I go to the juvenile centers, AMI Kids Boys Base, and I mentor, been doing it for a year with no funding. And it's good that they had this all going on, but people, small people that's doing great work in the urban community and the low income like me need to be offered and afforded the opportunity to go through the process to be able to get funding to make a great impact, especially when you're putting the work in and you have your data, you have your numbers, you have the recidivism rate, you have it to where you're putting in this peer group empowerment, and while you're doing it, at the end, you have people graduating and they're not returning. I also go to Academy of Growth and Development in Defuniak Springs, and the reason why I go there is because you got 12 juveniles that's coming back to our community. I provide the continuing care with no funding. My credit cards, my overtime on my job, and we have funding here for this, and it need to be afforded, and information need to be given and help somebody navigate through the steps that they need with a collaboration for the overall goal to provide a more excellent way for our young people. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much. Make sure, I think Ms. Greer is going to give you, set up your information.
And that's what I would say, Brother Hills. The same thing to you that I said to Ms. right here. Stay in touch. This is the office that will, excuse me, Sister Chair, that will guide you through every step. You and every other grassroots effort that's already doing it. And trust me, although you haven't been here, exactly what you have said is exactly what's already been stated around this dais. You are not overlooked at all. We understand that. Just stay in touch with the right people. 32501, 32505 area code is not overlooked.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Real quick, I've read your story in the newspaper recently, and I've heard Sheriff Simmons talk very highly of you, and I commend you for coming back to this community with what you've been through and the adversity you faced in your life to come back to help these kids. That says a lot, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. I remember the 8th Street days, and I remember you as a little kid, and you're a good athlete, and you're a good man, and it's good to see you back here, my friend.
All right, Ms. Greer would like to say something. Or actually, Dr. Krupa.
I think we just wanted to say thank you for everyone who came. Lots of the folks who have spoken were actually interviewed as part of the needs assessment during the public comment phase, which lasted for 3 weeks. So thank you for also coming out tonight and staying with us. Just wanted to assure everyone that no one's being left behind. We haven't released the out-of-school time RFP yet, God willing. But thank you for just kind of adding your voice and your story to what you had shared with us previously.
I was going to say, Madam Chair, just a quick aside, this is the biggest turnout that we've had that I can recall since this trust has formed. And I want to thank all of you all for coming, contributing your time, your input. This is the feedback that we as the board want to hear and need to hear. It is our intent, I want to assure all of you all, to distribute these funds, to do it as transparently as we can, and where we are going to get the biggest bang for the community's impact that we can. This is your money, your funds, your children, your needs. It's our intent to try to provide the stewardship that is needed in order to try to get those funds out to people that are on the street and the people that are in the trenches, because you all are the ones that are going to make the difference. It's our job to try to support you all in the vital work that you all are doing. So I thank you all for all that you have done.
One thing that I'd like to point out, many people have thought they may not have been contacted. If they're a small organization, we may not know about them. And so, I would advise continually going to our website
There's a contact.
and being able to keep up with what's going on, because it wouldn't be because we didn't want you involved. It would be because we didn't know you were there to get you involved. So the easiest thing is for you to stay in touch with us, as Reverend Lonnie Wesley said, because we don't want to leave anybody out.
Well, to that point, once we approve an RFP, we cannot, we have a cone of silence, and we cannot, we're not allowed to, even the staff is not allowed to contact the organization. So we just need to get their information so we can let them know about the RFPs. And on that note, I don't think we don't have a recommendation on the floor to approve the RFP, the out-of-school time program. Is there a motion?
I will make the motion.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes.
But can we be clear, I mean, can we just go ahead and put on the record, September 21st, what time, what location? I mean,
So for those of you who didn't hear, September 21st, Ms. Greer is going to let us know there's a RFP information session. So anyone who does an out-of-school time program, morning, afternoon, can apply and can come to a session that Ms. Greer and Dr. Cooper will lead.
It's going to be on September 21st. It'll be from 9 to 11:30, and it's at the Brownsville Community Center. And we will record it and put it on our website as well in case anyone misses it. I hate having my back to the audience, but I have to use the microphone. And then for those who are interested in some other things that we're planning, if you'll stick around for the rest of the meeting, I promise I will make the director's report very brief this evening. So.
All right, the next item to vote on is the invitation to bid for the Family Resource Directory. And the recommendation is the board approve the ITB 2022-03, the Family Resource Directory as presented. Is there a motion on the table to approve this?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question for clarification. You mentioned producing 50,000 copies of this resource. One is I wonder, do we need that many hard copies? I'm not opposed to it, but I just see so many things even that are free to the public that I see dozens of copies sitting in various places and they just sit. And so that's expense. The second thing in this day and age that we and others have so much here is to ensure that said resource is going to be readily available on the web and that we may get it distributed further and more penetration into the community that way rather than a hard copy, although I'm a hard copy kind of guy.
Madam Chair, may I speak to this?
Yes.
So there are about 15% of the citizens in Escambia County.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There are about 15% of the citizens in Escambia County that do not have access to the internet at their home. So most of those are access to the internet at all. So most of those people, maybe they do have a phone, but they don't have the ability to pull all that information down on their telephone, or if they do, they have to go to some public place to pull that information. And our families desperately need a hard copy of what resources are available. I know the Department of Children and Families has a website with a whole bunch of information, but it's rarely used. Maybe only about 3,000 people in the whole region, that's 16 counties, use that on a monthly basis. So this hard copy is very important, and I don't think 50,000 copies is too many.
I also would like to speak to the amount of copies volunteering at like grassroots organizations. My church, our food pantry, when I used to volunteer there, almost weekly people kept copies of those. And United Way and other organizations also give those out, especially to like the homeless population.
I could also see this being a nice resource for a group like Parent University that has a lot of people coming in and resource tables around during the session. So I think that's advantageous. And Executive Director Greer, could you also just refresh us, because I think there was a pretty good success record or rate at this in another location?
Yes, two places where it has been particularly successful, Broward County and Hillsborough County have resource directories. And I myself was skeptical whenever I heard how many they print in those larger communities, and said, you know, it's like a phone book, because I'm old enough to remember phone books. And I was skeptical, and they said, no, these fly off the shelves. The parents use them. They carry them around. It goes beyond just a pamphlet. It's done hand in glove with your 211 system, because a lot of people don't know what 211 is. So it's actually a marketing tool for 211. Yes, sometimes things are out of date the moment that it's printed, but when you are talking about agencies like, you know, the school district, what are the odds that you're going to change your phone numbers next year? So, you know, some of these agencies it is going to be reliable information. And I don't think we have anything to lose by printing it at least one time. And then if it's a failure, if people say they don't need it, then we've learned that. But the process itself of us gathering this information to put together this resource directory will help us to figure out who is where in our community and who we're missing. And so it will be a really great way for us to do an analysis and kind of a service map, if you will. And it goes beyond, people often say, well, we already have the street survival guide. This is the street survival guide. What we're talking about is something that is 8.5 by 11 and probably 70 pages that goes beyond just where you go when you're in crisis. But where do you go if you need to find childcare? Where do you go if you need to get food? Beyond a food pantry, there's food pantries, there's SNAP benefits. Where do you go to apply? What's the web address? What's the phone number? We can put ads in here for different agencies. So it really is a much more robust tool and an actual resource directory. And it will absolutely be online. That's included in the ITB, the invitation to bid. We've laid out exactly what we want, and we just need vendors to come in and bid to tell us how much it would be for them to collate all this information in conjunction with 211 to make sure that we're working closely with United Way and not duplicating any initiatives, and then to also produce it. So how's that for a refresher?
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much.
That was pretty good, Tammy. You answered every question. And thank you for spending time with us today, Tammy. And I think that for that point of clarification, as you said, some people, that the moment you print it, it becomes outdated. I mean, smaller organizations are seasonal. They go in and out. They're all dependent on funding. And so I'm glad that you're addressing that. I mean, I think, one of the things that would be good for me, and I think you've adequately explained it, that as we talk to the general public about, this is not a duplication of what United Way is doing, and that this is an enhancement. And so, I mean, maybe like 15, you explained it to me today, but I mean, maybe 15 seconds on, one, it's how you address what you said, being updated daily with organizations depending on funding because they go in and out. And the second is certainly how do we look at, distribution, and how do we look that there's no duplication of what United Way is doing?
Please don't construe or misconstrue my comments as anything but 100% supportive of this effort. One of the major services we provided through children's medical services, caring for families with children with complex medical needs throughout the 10 counties in the Panhandle, was simply providing information, who they could reach out to when a given service was needed. It was anything from where to get diapers to the next jar of baby food to a provider for complex genetic disorder to whatever it was, and they are starving for this information. So I think this will be a tremendous resource.
Well, even a bigger picture, if we have 30% of our residents or 15, whatever the number is, that doesn't have access to the internet, that's something that we can look forward to putting, make sure it's in every home.
I was just going to briefly answer the distribution question because it's actually fascinating. The model that we looked at and interviewed in Broward County, they print 200,000, and they are physically in the hands of every single Broward County child. So we kind of did the math, estimating 50,000, looking at our numbers from birth to 18.
Thanks, Kim. We're going to kill a lot of trees.
All right, we have a...
It's on newsprint, ideally, so not that
Oh,
much.
ideal? Well, maybe.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any more discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. And now we're on to our last action item is the unsolicited grant application and matching grant from Community Health Northwest Florida. The recommendation is the staff recommends the board approve resolution 2022-12 authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with the Community Health Northwest Florida to fund the unsolicited application for a matching grant in the amount of $72,837 to provide up to a 1-to-3 match of funding from the Florida Agency of Healthcare Administration effective October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. And Chandra Smiley, who is the director, is here if we have any questions for her. Is there a motion on the table for this?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
My
I
only
have-
discussion,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
well, again, I mean, this came from the last agenda we got, and it says at the bottom, School Readiness Coalition, DBA, Escambia County Learning Position. So, I mean, but this actually came from this was what I was told was an addition. So has this been fixed? Okay. All right.
Any more discussion?
Yes, Tammy, could you refresh my memory on where this funding is coming and what is our budget? Like, where are we taking this money from? Because if we approve all 3 of these things, that's like $400,000. I'm just trying to understand where would we be taking that money from and what line item and what is the budget for that funding?
So this would come out of the grants and aids to organization, that big pot of funding. And then on the strategic plan, I need to look at the different pillars on the strategic plan because I honestly just don't remember off the top of my head. Let's see, it is.
Primarily be under kids or
So
healthy.
it's the special, no, that's not the special funds. Oh, it's the matching funds. It's the first, I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's the matching funds. It's the first one where we have $4.1 million allocated for matching funds to increase or maintain availability or accessibility to family and children's services. And then there's a laundry list of things, but access to health care is on there. So, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Can't even read.
And this proposal, is this a new program? Where would they get the funding if they didn't get it from us? Is this a new program?
I'm gonna bounce that one to Chandra Smiley.
Thank you.
This is not a new program. We have a dental program. We actually have several dental locations throughout Escambia and Santa Rosa County. One of the services that we do and an extension of that program is mobile dental services, where we take dental vans to the schools. We have 2 vans. One is a 3-operatory van, relatively new, and completely outfitted. We're in 24 of the elementary schools. This proposal gives us the opportunity to update an older mobile unit. We've got chairs that they're so old that we're not able to even find parts to repair them, as well as add some additional equipment so that we can do hygiene and oral exams in middle schools and high schools. So it gives us the opportunity to expand access.
So, dental van. I love the dental van. I used to help out with our PTA at the dental van so that our schools that don't have PTAs have access to the dental van. My question, I guess, if you said dental vans, that answered all my questions because I know exactly what the dental van is. Like, I love the dental van. If y'all haven't seen the dental van, you really need to see this van. It has like a TV on it. The kids can watch TV. It's amazing. But my question, I guess my supplemental question is, if you currently, right now with the contract, and I don't know how this applies or if this even applies, right now you only see kids with Medicaid at schools. Is that?
No, we see any child. We see several children without insurance.
I mean, on the dental vans that come to the schools,
We
it's
see
different?
any child.
Okay, perfect. Because before, the assumption was different, so.
No.
But any child that fills out the application at the school, regardless of, can be seen on, that's even better.
Yeah, so our organization, as a federally qualified health center, our mission and our charge is to take care of anyone who walks through our doors, regardless of insurance or status or ability to pay.
Yeah, so I work for a health insurance company, and in the past, the application used to say that only children with Medicaid were able to get on the dental bus.
No, we saw children last year without health insurance.
This was pre-COVID, and it was part of like the contract with the school district, so that's why I'm asking, is that a different, that's changed since pre-COVID?
We've always seen any child without.
That was the Escambia County Health Department had dental vans and dental services. Theirs were
Yeah, I understand. I actually,
different
yeah.
organization.
But the application used to say different, because I used to help pass out the application.
This is our, I'm sorry, this
Yeah,
is
well, I
Derek
know him-
Richardson, our
I know
dental
him very
director.
well. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm Derek Richardson, I'm a dental director there. So I used to work for the health department. So when the Escambia Community Clinic basically took over, it took over contracts and the insurance just kind of carried on. But at this point, when the Escambia Community Clinic took over, we see children from, insured and uninsured. Yeah.
It's an amazing program. Well, you know, I love the dental bus.
Ms. Smiley, and so I'm very supportive of this program because children in my program were able to come, and now you're going to be able to expand whether maybe braces or crowns or things that you couldn't do, and not just pulling their tooth like in the past because you didn't have the resources. You're going to be able to enhance your services from what I read in your proposal.
Correct. So we are able, as a federally qualified health center, we're able to leverage local dollars for low-income pool match. And so our proposal includes the dollars that we would leverage, which is about $122,000, we would put into paying for specialty referrals for our uninsured children. So last year, there was 244 pediatric patients that we referred out. And in many cases, they're unable to apply for or qualify for or pay for any kind of payment plan that may be offered through oral surgery, orthodontics, et cetera. So I think last year we sent 75 referrals for pediatric sedation extractions. So that alone is about $112,000 if you look at the average cost. So it gives us the opportunity to have a pool of money to help offset or pay for, in many cases, services that these children aren't getting right now.
And as a insurance plan, I can speak to that. I do a lot of health events, and we have children and families that have to drive to Panama City for these services. So it's an extremely needed, they're having to take off for work, and so there is an extreme need for those benefits.
And regrettably, the pediatric provider in Panama City has now retired. And so that was going to be one of my questions, even with the additional funding. I was speaking to one of my long-term dear colleagues as recently as yesterday, stating that they were having to send patients as far as Gainesville or Tampa to receive some of these services. And that hopefully with the additional funding you all get and involvement of yourselves, that you will be able to expand your local provider network. It's insane to spend the additional money to send them to Panama, or well, as close as Panama City, which is no longer available, to Gainesville, to Tampa, or wherever. The imposition on the family and all that, when for less money but more than what they're currently getting, you could access the services locally. So I'm hoping that you all are able to do that type of thing. Again, that was one of the challenges we dealt with constantly through children's medical services, was trying to see what we could do to access and obtain services on more of the local network. So this is tremendous. I applaud you all. I was pointing out for years that pediatric mental health and dental health were the two biggest medical needs in the pediatric population. So
Madam Chair, we've discussed dental along with dental director. I think dental and kids' toothaches is more important than.
I was getting ready to ask for a
Yeah,
vote.
please. We discussed this more than the directory. I'll make the motion.
We already have a motion.
Okay,
We just need a
motion.
vote. Is that,
Vote.
so all in favor?
I want to make one comment because the judge did, the latest update still is not correct. So I want to make sure that y'all get that corrected, because it does, when it says the Board of Directors of the Trust does hereby authorize, it says School Readiness Coalition. So.
Yes, it was corrected about 2 hours ago when Dr. North pointed it out, so nothing's been updated yet.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. Congratulations. All right, at this time, we'll have the Executive Director's report.
I promise to make this quick. I don't even have a PowerPoint. So just a couple of things I wanted to announce. We hear you. We hear what everyone is saying about the little guy not being able to respond to some of these massive requests for proposals that get released. So we are already planning and have started working on a series of presentations called Doing Business with the Trust. And we're going to cover the following things. We're going to cover basic grant writing. And I know you've heard that before and probably have been to other grant writing workshops, but we're going to talk about specifically the kinds of things that we're looking for. We're also going to have an attorney, most likely from Legal Services in North Florida. We'll have a nonprofit attorney who'll come in and talk about how to start up a nonprofit, how to get your tax exemption certificate, all those kinds of things so that you can compete for other funding, not just ours. We're also going to look at governance and how to start a board and how to work with your board, because a lot of times you need that to get started. We're going to have some workshops on budget management, how to do a budget, and then how to monitor your spending, how to request for reimbursements. We're going to also do one on deliverables and what that means, data management, data collection. So while you're learning about how to work with us, these agencies will also be learning some things that they can use to apply for other funding. So it kind of goes to the part of our mission to help leverage other external funds. So that's a workshop, or a series rather, of workshops that we're working on, and we're going to record them. We're not movie stars, so lower your expectations, but we are going to record them so that you can refer to them anytime you need to, and if you can't attend when we're doing it live, then at least you'll have that option. I also wanted to say that we are going to be pushing out the needs assessment because we want that to be used as a tool in the community, not just something that we've done for ourselves. We hesitate to call it a celebration because the data in there is by definition not happy data. It is not something to be celebrated. So if you hear us being celebratory with regard to the needs assessment, it's just because we survived managing to pull the document together, not because of what the document says. But we do want that to be something that the community uses and that we can have as a baseline so that we can monitor our progress. And then the last thing that I would want to add is that I will be working on with the rest of the staff. I just have to give props. I have such an incredible team, and the board has been really wonderful to work with, and our legal counsel has been tremendous. I mean, it's been a heck of a month. But one of the things that I will try to bring back to you for the board's consideration is possibly doing some smaller grants that are a little less complicated so that maybe we can get some tinier, well, I shouldn't say tiny, but some smaller funding out to some of the more grassroots organizations so that we do have some options in case the RFP is a little overwhelming. So we're going to try to hit it from both sides. So that will come back to you for your feedback and consideration. That is it. That's all I've got. So,
Ms. Bush, do you have anything?
Very briefly, I'd like to introduce my partner here, Kia Goldsmith from Clark Partington. She has been working behind the scenes, helping with some of the trust workload. She also recently met with staff and did a roundtable to go over Sunshine Public Records. She came to Clark Partington from Escambia County Board of County Commissioners in February, one of my dearest friends, and I'm glad to be working with her. We'll be rotating in and out of the meeting, so if you can't get me, go to Kia. I'm glad to have her here.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kia. We appreciate you.
All right, I have no public comments regarding non-agenda items.
Congratulations, Marilyn.
Hey, Meredith, you don't have to stay all these long meetings. Put it on Kia because she's
And then-
new.
Are there any board comments? All right, is there a motion to adjourn? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll see you on the 23rd at 5:30. Thank you.